So it's such an interesting concept, the great resignation. People are quitting, people are struggling, people need flexibility, and it's changing something. Yet we talk about it as a time, a place and time, when really at the foundation of this is our ability as leaders to have these conversations with our employees. So I want you to think about a 3-step process. I want you to think about 3 columns on a sheet of paper. Sit down with your employees in column 1 and ask, currently, as we sit here today, where do you feel like you have strengths? Where do you feel like you have opportunities to grow? And what do you like most about what you're presently doing? That's called the current state. Now, I'm about to introduce a concept called a psychological disrupt. A psychological disrupt disrupts the normal conversation. It gets people thinking differently. Now, normally when you go from column 1, you go to column 2. No, go from column 1, now go to column 3 and ask them, what's your desired place? Where do you want to end up? If you could describe exactly what you want to be doing, what does that look like? Do you know the title of the job? One of the companies I've always loved is Amplify out of Indianapolis, and Adam Weber, one of their founders, always talked about celebrating people leaving the company to pursue their passions. And when I first heard this, I'm like, this guy's nuts. It's awesome. So we sit down with our employees now and we talk about, what do you want to do? Outside of your job, what do you want to do? What do you want to explore? What do you want to learn? And we have people working on their own initiatives that certainly help the company, but fuel their passion. So again, column 1, what are your strengths? What are your opportunities? What do you like about what you're doing? Column 3, where do you ultimately want to end up? What's that desired place? What does that look like? Then you go back to column 2 and you ask, what actions do we need to take together to move you towards that column 3 so you can get what you want? That's a totally different conversation than what leaders are having. Now, one might literally say, well, wait a minute, that has nothing to do with the job. They have a job to do. And they do. They don't have to be exclusive. They can be inclusive. So let's say we have somebody who says, I want to start my own shoe company. As crazy as that is, I want to start my own shoe company. Has nothing to do with the job. Now, that's a really off-center type of perspective, but just bear with me. When we do that, what we can do is then say, well, you know what, Tom? Let's explore entrepreneurship together. Let's talk about what we can do. Let's have that conversation. And, not but, and if we can maintain a level of performance that the company needs, I think that would be an awesome exchange for us to assist one another. What are your thoughts? That's much different than a leader saying, well, whoa, that has nothing to do with your job. I'm not going to even have this conversation. See, when we talk about the Great Resignation, it requires conversation. The reason we're having the Great Resignation is because we don't have conversation. Leaders shouldn't be doing annual reviews unless they're coaching. You cannot show up at 365 days and say, oh, by the way, I'm now going to evaluate you because HR asked me to fill out this form. It's wrong. It's just wrong. We have to be constantly coaching, motivating, inspiring, challenging, questioning, being inquisitive to drive people's talent. I love the book, The Progress Principle, and they talk about people are at their most motivated state. 76% of their respondents said, I was at the most motivated state when I was progressing and improving in my job. So if you want to really offset the Great Resignation, call people into your office for the good stuff. Don't call them in for the stuff they're doing wrong. It wears on people. Then that gets compounded with what? Lack of flexibility. All of the attributes the Great Resignation is illustrating. The Great Resignation is not happening because, in my estimation, because of the pandemic. It's happening because of a lack of conversation. If our leaders are not practicing coaching conversations, practicing career conversations, practicing motivation, inquisitive conversations, practicing teamwork conversations, then they're going to gravitate to mandates and directives. That's never inspired anybody. The Great Resignation requires thoughtful, professional conversation.